And good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the live streaming of Money Matter Show. My name is Nev, your host. And today we have very important news. Of course, you do know that the Congress has actually passed the new stimulus. And what does that mean? Well, in my personal humble opinion, it means asset prices shall continue going up. And I'm not the only one thinking that way. We actually have some reports that we have many movers happening in traditional stocks as well as within the crypto space. So we do have quite a bit of news to talk about stimulus. What does that mean for you? What can you expect? What does that mean for the rental agreement? Because we talked about that briefly, that is kind of what's happening, coming out. We also have some sort of secret deals that some of the largest companies have done. We're going to take a look into that stuff. We're going to take a look at the biggest movers within the stocks, as well as what to expect and what's happening in the crypto space. Let's just say there's an SEC fines and all kinds of stuff. SEC has been busy, y'all. Very, very busy. And you will see exactly what I mean. Hey, I do want to welcome everybody who is watching and listening to this live. Say hello if you want to, and let's do this. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, well, happy winter to you. We have officially hit winter, and as you know, well, stimulus is being passed, and checks 2.0 are coming our way. They are, well, they should be maybe checks 0.5 because they're half as big as they were before. So, a second round of stimulus checks will be sent to Americans, and of course, you can expect to receive up to $600 for individuals and $600 for each dependent child. They have to be 17 or younger. So if they're in college, too bad, so sad. If you have elderly parents, yet again, we're not supporting them either. I don't know but the government is definitely not. So who is going to get it? Well, eligibility will be based on your most recent tax return and your adjusted gross income, and the IRS will actually use your 2019 tax return to determine if you qualify for the payment or not. So take a look into that stuff, because last time we did this, they were doing the 2018. Now it's 2019. So you want to take a look into that, because that could change your qualification, so to speak. So if 2019 you did better than 2018, and you hit that threshold of $75,000 for single and $150 for married, well, then you're going to receive a bit less money. Single parents who file as a head of household with income up to $112,500 will get the full $600, and of course additional $600 for a child under 17. Payments will be reduced at a $5 for every $100 of additional income over the stated amounts, right? 75 for single, 150 for married, filing jointly, and that kind of stuff. Deceased people, this is my favorite part of the whole thing. Quote, deceased people may also receive a payment. Checks will go to all eligible taxpayers who were alive as of January 1st, 2020. Well, now with my dad kind of passing earlier this year, I'm thinking, my gosh, I wish you lived in this country, man, because, you would have received money. So anyways, something for you to know. Of course, how fast can we expect to receive this? Well, they're saying they expect to start rolling this puppy out as early as next week. So some of the households could receive it not before Christmas necessarily, but before New Year's. And of course, they're going to be using your bank account, direct deposit. So same place where you get your refunds. If you already have that established, they're going to use that to send you the money. If you don't have that, then they're going to start sending the checks or debit cards, and you can receive them anytime between next Monday and January 15th, right? So that's kind of one of the things that I think impacts a lot of people, so I wanted to bring it up over here. Of course, what are people going to use the money for? I don't know. Everybody has their own thing. I know that there's going to be people that are going to go shop till you drop. I know there's going to be people that are going to pre-spend it on Christmas gifts. I know there's going to be people that are going to pay down debt, which I think is a very smart thing to do. And there's going to be people that are going to invest it. And that means that more likely than not, we're going to see some money start going back into potentially crypto, as well as going into, well, Robinhood. And we're going to talk about Robinhood in just a moment. Heck, might as well talk about it now. Robinhood has been a little bit on a hot list for SEC because they're doing something funny. They're doing things that I've been sharing with you for months now, if not even longer, and that is that they're cheating you out of your wealth. But people still like them. So what happened? Well, Robinhood was fined $65 million in US for misleading customers. And they will actually be paying that money to settle charges because what they are saying is they didn't necessarily tell individuals who are using it of how they actually make money and how their transactions are being executed. So, of course, Robinhood gets paid by a third party to route your orders to them. Third party goes in, they buy and sell, do a little bit of HFT, high frequency trading, and when you end up buying and selling, well, you pay a much higher price. They basically front run you. It's rigged, it's wrong, but people are doing it. And of course, the article says Robinhood routed orders to these firms, resulting in $34.1 million in higher customer fees. And of course, they have agreed to pay this without admitting or denying the findings. And that's a very typical way to do business inside inside this stuff. So that's one thing to kind of pay attention to. I do have a few more of those, so don't go anywhere. Stay tuned if that's exciting to you. All right, let's briefly talk about the stimulus or the bill, or however you want to call it. I don't even know what to call it. The assistance, let's call it the assistance bill, AB. And there's a rental assistance, right? One of the things that was within it, of course, is the checks to individuals. The next one is the rental assistance. There's quite a bit more. We talked about it yesterday, so I'm not going to beat it, but I'm going to go into depth onto a few of these. So rental assistance, how does that actually work? Well, they did carve out $25 billion for rental assistance to states and local governments, and then federal government is going to send it to state and local, and then you will actually apply through your state or through your local government for the funds. The funds can be used for payment of rent arrears, utilities, home energy costs, as well as those arrears. So basically anything housing related is going to go through this billion. And some are arguing that this is a good start, but it's not nearly enough because it may cover potentially the rent losses, but it doesn't cover everything else. So we'll see how that's going to play out. Of course, it's going to take a little bit of time for the states to get it and then kind of figure out how to do that. But I think if you are a landlord, if you are a renter, it is a good place to go and look. Another one that I think is also very important is, of course, going to be for small and large businesses alike. So if you are a gig worker, if you have a side hustle, if you have a business, whether it's an actual entity or you operate as a sole proprietor or a contractor, you can actually still apply for some of the loans. Of course, they're doing some stuff with PPP. So that's, of course, for the employers who have payroll. But if you are not qualifying for that, there is another form of funding, and that's called EIDL. Emergency loans they're not loans, they're actually grants. So you apply for it, it's not a loan, it's just a grant that comes in, and it ranges anywhere between $1,000 and $10,000. There are different rulings within which you may fall to qualify. Sometimes, when it first rolled out, it used to be based by the number of employees. So if you have 10 employees or less, then you would get $1,000 per employee. Now they have actually changed that stuff, so number of employees is not as relevant. It has to do, well, part of it is employees, but part of it is also where you do business and what kind of business you're in, so you can qualify. And since we were talking about the rental assistance, I do know that I do have quite a bit of real estate investors within the channel, within the following the episodes. So even as a landlord, you can actually apply for this stuff. And if you operate in lower income communities and provide assistance for sort of like a lower rents and stuff, you could potentially qualify for up to $10,000. So it does take about I don't know, 5 to 15 minutes to fill it out. It's not very long. It's not very complicated. It is open right now, but if you wait too long, I'm afraid they're going to run out of money like they did earlier in the year. So if you are interested, if this is even remotely of interest to you, I urge you to go in and apply immediately. Well, maybe not immediately. Hold on to the rest of the show. And as soon as we finish, you go in and apply. Or maybe you can simulcast or do it double thing. I can't do that stuff, but maybe you can multitask. So that's amazing. All right. So, of course, with the whole thing of what's happening with the money, with the stimulus, with everything else, we are seeing that markets are starting to move. And of course, we're going to first take a look at what's happening inside some of the stocks because trading is going to begin in about 30-ish minutes plus minus. So stocks making the biggest moves in the pre-market. Of course, let's take a look. Peloton is acquiring rival fitness equipment maker Precor for $420 million, and the shares jumped 9% in the pre-market. Peloton, one thing to know, is not really profitable quite yet. So, but people still believe in it, and so that's something that you can do. Sportsman's Warehouse agreed to be bought by Cabela's parent, Great American Outdoor Group, and the shares soared 37% in the pre-market. CarMax auto retailer reported quarterly earnings of $1.42 per share, beating the consensus of $1.14. Of course, you would think that the stock would go up. You'd be wrong. It actually shares fell 2% in the pre-market. Who knew? We're going to talk about Google and Facebook in a moment. United Airlines, well, they can actually go and get all of the money from this AB thing happening, right? But they did warn that any recall of employees resulting from new airline aid would be temporary. So they might actually temporarily call people back in. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows what's going to happen? Tesla shares fell 6.5% on Monday when it first listed in the S&P 500 index. And if you have been following what kind of happens, typically the shares actually go up as they're being announced they're going to do stuff, and then when they actually list, they go back down. So you sell the or buy the news, sell the reality, or whatever the thing is, whatever the statement is. SolarWinds, the company that was involved with the whole hacking thing, well, they lost nearly 40% of its value in the last week. However, the shares did go up nearly 7% in the pre-market trading. Apple is higher in the pre-market trading as well after rising Monday on reports that it plans to enter electric car market in 2024. Watch out, Tesla. Here comes Apple Car. Yeah. And you know, they already have a bunch of technology for it. So if they just purchase one of the smaller automakers or make some sort of deal for the shell and just put their thing, you know, who knows? It's going to get interesting. But I did promise that I was going to talk about the Google and Facebook scams and that kind of stuff. So watch this. Check this out. Google and Facebook reportedly agreed to help each other against potential antitrust action. Ooh, they were planning for it, right? Well, of course, when you get that big, I mean, you should kind of know somebody's going to come knocking on the door and be like, hello, you too big, you're blocking everybody. So they know they're wrong, but they are doing it nonetheless. Google and Facebook pledged to help one another if they ever faced an investigation into their pact to work together in online advertising. Google and Facebook reportedly made a deal in September of 2018 in which Facebook agreed to not compete with Google's online advertising tools. In return, the social media giant was given special treatment when it used them itself. A Google spokesperson told CNBC, of course, the idea that this was a secret deal is just wrong. We've been public about this partnership for years. I don't know about that. I don't know if you knew that. And even if you're a small business, well, you kind of had to pay on multiple fronts and deal with it. And of course, they would bill you like crazy. And if you get banned by either one of them, or God forbid, both of them, well, you are out of luck and screwed. Can I say that publicly out loud live? Because where else do you go? Where do you advertise? Because they have taken everything else. So we'll see how this is going to turn out. Personally, I do think they're going to break them up, and I think that that is going to have a negative consequences on their stonks. But of course, the stonks are still performing really, really well. So we'll see how that all rolls out. I have no clue. Of course, the whole like chasing down the giant things, and we've heard about the Robinhood, we've heard about the Google and Facebook. Well, it's time to switch to crypto. And of course, we've been seeing all kinds of crazy stuff with the companies starting to go and filing to go public, right? We had two exchanges filed to do that. We've seen, some of the companies kind of being held in contempt of trying to do crazy stuff. And Ripple is next one, of course. So, cryptos dive as Ripple expects to be sued by the SEC. A day after Treasury proposed new rule on crypto movement, the SEC is expected to bring a lawsuit against Ripple by alleging it violated investor protection laws by selling unregistered securities when it sold XRP to investors. And of course, the Ripple CEO, Brad, went out and said, Ripple is a currency. Ripple is a currency. Everybody said so. Well, SEC could care less. So, of course, what is happening? Well, let's go in and take a look at the market. As a matter of fact, let me even refresh so we get the freshest of the news of the day. So, where are we? Well, Bitcoin is sitting pretty at $23,530.33. Thank you very much. And it has pumped a whopping almost 22% in 7 days and 3.1% in 24 hours. Ethereum is currently trading at $618.98, up 1% in a day and 5.5% in 7 days. XRP, well, XRP is down. Remember, it was almost $1 not that long ago. Now it's trading at 48.96 cents. It is down 6.2% in 24 hours, but only 1.7% in 7 days, and it is slightly up in an hour. So, a little bit of a dump, not a whole lot. People are still very bullish on it. We'll see how the whole thing rolls out. Typically, the crypto crowd doesn't seem to really care. Actually, the retail investors just don't seem to care. Whether it's being sued or not being sued, broken up, not being broken up, bought, bankrupt, the price goes up. And why does it go up? Well, because the money is going in and everybody believes, hey, the Fed has our back. But the Fed, they might actually have our back. They haven't purchased the darn thing quite yet. They just announced, hey, we will if we have to. But they haven't done much of anything else. And of course, now with this extra stimulus, where's the money going to go? Well, nobody really knows exactly how it's going to play out. But I'm thinking it's probably going to go into the stocks, it's going to go into the crypto, and we can expect the prices to go up. Well, talking about prices going up, let's take a biggest gainers, and UMA, oh my goodness, up 34.1% in 24 hours. Congrats if you're holding it. Theta, 19 point up. ESD, 17.4. Swissborg, 14.1. DCR, 13. Energy Web, 11.6. Nexo, 10.4. And of course, we do have some very big gainers over the last 24 hours. Of course, on the losing end, well, it's the graph. GRT is down 13.5%, which was to be expected. This puppy has pumped and pumped and pumped and pumped. And of course, it has come down. And, it's been flirting around that 50-cent mark for the last 24 hours or so. It has dipped down to about 48 cents, come back up to like 53, 54 cents, then back down. So it's consolidating, in my humble opinion. I am still very bullish long-term on this particular crypto because of what it can do, and I do plan to hodl it for a long time, but of course it makes sense that it's going to go down. It cannot pump up forever because some people that went in early are going to go in and take profits when they feel like they have had enough. NIR is in a second position at negative 7.6%. XRP, third position, negative 6.2%. Filecoin -6, and then we get into the sushi and that kind of stuff with 3% and lower. So not a whole lot of losers. Really, the graph would be the biggest one of them all. And honestly, I wouldn't even call graph the loser. I mean, they just freaking got started. When we take a look at the traditional markets, where are things sitting? Well, let's take a look. And here is where things are. The futures for the S&P 500 is up. Just slightly, but it is up nonetheless. Nasdaq is up also about 0.5%. Dow is basically flat. It's negative 0.02%. So basically, let's call it flat. Russell 2000, well, is slightly up, almost 1/3%. The dollar index is actually up, believe it or not. And of course, the Bitcoin index is up a whopping 3.42%. And I say whopping for crypto, that's not really big. But when you compare it to everything else that I have here on screen, of course, that does make sense to kind of call it a whopping. And you can't see it necessarily on the screen, but what we did see is that bonds, the yields are going down, which means prices are pumping still. So let's take a look at what's happening with the Bitcoin, and let's take a look at the graph. I have created a new way to take a look into the stuff, so let's see if this is maybe better for you. So of course we're gonna take a look into this whole thing. As you can see, look at this crazy thing. I have to like zoom out of the screen to get it, but this is where we have been in trading over the past few days. And as you can see, we're pretty much within the mostly sideways channel, but it is trending on up. You can see that it has a very slight sort of on up trend, and of course it is pumping. I do think it's going to kind of go within this channel for a little while. So if you zoom out, right, and we're looking at the 1 hour candles over here for those of you watching. If you zoom out, you can kind of see that you go sort of sideways and then boom. So now we're going sideways. This is a very good thing. It's a very healthy thing for this to happen, and I do believe that it is going to go on up. As you can see, that it's hitting all of the right supports right over here. It is, trading. It's starting to go on up right here. When we take a look at the RSI, it's not in the overbought category at all, so it has a potential to actually still go on up. So it's looking pretty darn healthy in my humble opinion. So that's kind of where we stand right now. And to finish today's episode, we're going to go in probably one of the most bullish news on Bitcoin, just in case you need a little bit of that warm and fuzzy Christmas cheer, because hey, Christmas is only a couple days away. Of course, we do have news from the on-chain analyst that is saying that, hey, Bitcoin supply is in crisis, as is liquidity, and most people don't understand it. On-chain analyst and chief technology officer at Glassnode, Raphael Schultz-Kraft, says investors are underestimating just how much demand for Bitcoin is outstripping the supply. The number of Bitcoin addresses that have never spent funds and the amount of BTC that's presumably lost, or estimating their account for about 5.7 million Bitcoin, and that's unlikely to ever be sold. So you're going to take that out of that 21 million and boom, yank it right on out. Yeah, it's not even 18 anymore. Now we're talking basically what? 15 million Bitcoin only. The vast majority of BTC is also held by illiquid entities and miners that hold large amounts of Bitcoin that do not appear interested in selling. 14.4 million Bitcoin is held by illiquid entities, which is 78% of the current supply. That amount is miner unspent supply and has been increasing since the last halving. The current miner balance is 1.7 million Bitcoin. Well, that means that there's only about 12% of the Bitcoin supply that is liquid and able to be traded. So, what does that actually mean? Well, As institutional investors are increasingly entering the space, liquidity is vanishing because what they do is they buy and they put it in cold storage far, far away from the exchange. We're seeing the longest depletion of exchange funds. BTC is being pulled into long term storage, custodian wallets, and so on. The supply and liquidity crisis is set to fuel an uptrend in Bitcoin's price for the foreseeable future. Quote, Bitcoin is in a supply and liquidity crisis. This is extremely bullish and highly underrated, and I believe we will see a significant reflected in Bitcoin price in the upcoming months. And I do agree. I approve of this message, as they say. So I do believe that what we're seeing right now is basically nothing. Even though these moves have been pretty darn amazing, they are basically nothing when you compare it to what is going to happen. So will we see Bitcoin at 50,000, 100,000 or more? I think so. Of course, I can't promise or guarantee anything, and of course, none of the stuff that I say here or have shared today in the episode is or should be used as a financial, legal, accounting advice or any other kind of advice, because that's just not it. It's just my belief based off the analysis and the fundamentals as well as the technicals that I do think that Bitcoin is going to go through the roof. So, hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, do subscribe, do hit notifications, do like it, and I will see you tomorrow. Until then, stay forever money blessed, and do remember, you are